Ceddanne Rafaela got absolutely robbed of a Gold Glove nomination. Why? I'll tell you on today's Locked on Red Sox.
You are Locked on Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked on Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby Hurlbut, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I'm here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed. And the best part is it is all completely free. So you might as well tune in because Locked On is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to win $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Happy Thursday and welcome to Locked on Red Sox, where we sit here and we get deeper and deeper into the postseason. I mean, talk about a win for the Dodgers last night. That pitching staff has overall been absolutely lights out in these last few games. I mean, obviously they didn't have the best game in game 2 when the Mets won, but overall, I mean, completely shutting down the Padres in the last couple games of that series and also completely shutting down the Mets in 2 out of the first 3 games of the NLCS. I mean, what a fun series that has been. I mean, the American League series, obviously, we know has not been as fun. And for us Red Sox fans, the Yankees being up 2-0 in the series is totally not ideal, but still feeling like whoever comes out of the National League is winning the World Series this year. And when you think about World Series teams and wanting to have that conversation, you want the Red Sox to be able to be a part of that and be a team that has a chance to win the World Series. And Ceddanne Rafaela is somebody who could help give the Red Sox a chance to win the World Series in the future. He was extended by Boston. He can play multiple positions, so he's totally a multi-threat kind of player. Now, the Gold Glove finalists were released for each team. And for the Red Sox, it was Jarren, Duran, and Wilyer Abreu. And while I know that both of those 2 players are absolutely deserving of it, as they both had great seasons defensively, Ceddanne Rafaela absolutely got robbed of being in that conversation. Not only is his defense really good, but he does it in more than one position. And the outfield is his primary position, but then you go and watch him play shortstop and he's able to be just as effective there on defense. So it's pretty remarkable to see how he's been able to succeed in both of those positions defensively. And I feel like he deserves to be a finalist and got completely robbed of it. I mean, during the 2024 season, he started 72 games in center field. And that was the position that the Red Sox were pushing for him to play. And then with the injury to Trevor Story, he got moved to shortstop and ended up playing there a lot, but still bounced around between the two. So in those games in which he started at center field, he had a .984 fielding percentage. And that is well above average. The average is considered to be 900 or a little over 900. So he's well above average in that area. And then at shortstop, he started 71 games this season and he had a .968 fielding percentage there. So his defense was slightly better in the outfield, but he was making some great plays in both positions. He had 23 defensive runs saved in center field. And he would make some miraculous catches out there that not any ordinary, everyday center fielder makes. And his defense is the reason why the Red Sox extended him. And it's a big reason why he's going to find a lot of success in his career. Because look at somebody like Jackie Bradley Jr., who played for the Red Sox and was really successful in the outfield and was one of the best defensive center fielders in the league when he played. And he had a cannon of an arm. That was phenomenal to watch and watching him defensively. Now, Ceddanne Rafaela, similar to JBJ, has struggled offensively to really find his swing. But for one, he's still so young and is still learning the ropes and really trying to find his style and what works for him. But this is not an offensive award. Gold Glove is a defensive award. And if you're looking at defense alone, Ceddanne Rafaela was well above average in a lot of categories. So it's not fair that he is not a finalist. And obviously not everybody's going to be a finalist because that's just not possible. But it's still the fact that Ceddanne Rafaela deserved that nomination and deserved to be one of those players who has his name displayed up there with the other Red Sox players who are Gold Glove finalists right now. And it's, to me, a situation where I feel like they've just overlooked him a little bit. And it just makes it even more impressive that he plays multiple positions. Because if you look at his numbers in just center field and say, all right, he has really good numbers in center field, but I could get almost why other players would be picked over him because their numbers are similar. So it's not like he distinguishes himself enough just in center field. But then if you add his shortstop numbers also to it and you combine both and say, wow, this kid is really effective both in the outfield and at shortstop, he definitely deserves the chance to be in that conversation, then that argument makes a lot of sense. So I feel like he got robbed completely and should be one of those names that's listed. But Jarren Duran and Wilyer Abreu both had great seasons in the outfield. So Jarren Duran just put together a superstar season in general for the Red Sox. His speed on the bases and his dynamic abilities as a leadoff hitter stand out, but his defense could be his most encouraging development for the Red Sox because he took a huge leap defensively this year. He ended up getting the majority of the time in center field after Rafaela moved to shortstop to fill in for Trevor Story. And then the Red Sox outfielder answered the challenge drastically with improved reads, a few home run robberies, and an overall stellar season as a defender. So Duran earning that Gold Glove nomination for 2024 is fantastic for him. And he goes up against Houston Astros center fielder Jake Meyers and Toronto Blue Jays center fielder Dalton Varsho. So how he stacks up to the competition. So he had 231 putouts in 2024. So a putout is when it's the fielder who physically records the act of completing an out. So whether that's stepping on the base for a force out, tagging a runner, catching a batted ball, or catching a third strike, the fielder who physically records the act of completing that out. So when it comes to that, you think 231 putouts for him. Jake Meyers had 349 putouts, and Dalton Varsho had 201 putouts. Duran had 8 outfield assists compared to Jake Meyers' 2 outfield assists and Dalton Varsho's 4 outfield assists. Duran made 5 errors in the field. Meyers made 1 error, and Varsho also made 1 error. Duran had 17 defensive runs saved. Meyers had 6 defensive runs saved, and Varsho had 17 defensive runs saved. So Duran and Varsho in that category are in sync. And then 5 outs above average for Jarren Duran, 14 outs above average for Meyers, and 5 outs above average for Varsho. So you take those 3 and you look at the numbers, and likely Meyers is probably the favorite to get it, but Jarren Duran, even if he doesn't get it, built his case for sure on taking runs away from the opposition and improving his arm with those 8 outfield assists. So even if he doesn't get it, he at least took lots of leaps forward in the outfield defensively, and that's a really promising sign for him. Then you have Wilyer Abreu, who deserves the Gold Glove Award, played through his first full MLB season with the Red Sox this year, showing the skill set that should allow him to be an everyday player for years to come. Whether he's still going to be in a Red Sox uniform next year still is to be determined, but he's very good. He offers a capable left-handed bat and even further displayed an intriguing defensive profile this year in right field for the Red Sox, which ended up earning him that Gold Glove nomination for the first time in his career. He competes with Yankees outfielder Juan Soto and Angels outfielder Joe Adell. So how does he stack up to these guys? So Abreu had 212 putouts in 2024. Juan Soto also had 212 putouts, and Adell had 228 putouts. Abreu had 9 outfield assists, and so did Soto, and Adell just had 3 outfield assists. Abreu made 7 errors, Soto made just 2 errors, and Adell made 4 errors. Abreu had 18 defensive runs saved. Soto had -1 defensive run saved, and Adell had 6 defensive runs saved. So by far, Abreu drastically leads them in that category with defensive runs saved. Wilyer Abreu had 7 outs above average. Juan Soto had -13 outs above average, and Adell had 1 out above average. So if you look at everything all together in general, the underlying numbers do favor Abreu when you really get into the nitty-gritty of the metrics, and his arm definitely stands out around the game. There were lots of base runners that wouldn't challenge Abreu and wouldn't run on Abreu, but he will compete with Soto's star power, though Abreu's out conversion stands above his competitors. And as an added bonus for him, he's no stranger to a highlight play in right field. He made lots of fantastic catches, and he has the endorsement of Alex Cora, and his production just speaks for itself. I don't know if this is all going to be enough for him to earn his first career Gold Glove, but technically, based on the numbers, he should be getting it. So hopefully he does. He did lead all right fielders with that 18 defensive runs saved. So he certainly also deserves it. And I hope that both of these guys in Duran and Abreu get it, but there's no guarantee that either of them will. But I'm confident that even if neither of them do, it'll be a big confidence boost for them, and at least their defense will hopefully continue to improve. Speaking of defense, and somebody who hardly played defense at all in 2024, which was for the best for the Red Sox because his defense is weak, is Masataka Yoshida, who just had surgery. What's the timeline for him? Is he going to miss any of the season? That's coming up. If you're looking for a fun way to play daily fantasy sports, Prize Picks has you covered. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Prize Picks is great because it has so many different offerings and so many different ways that you can make money. Want to play Prize Picks alongside Drewski, Joe Budin, and MMA champ Sean O'Malley? You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community each week. Prize Picks puts its members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money with sports, and all you have to do is just download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. I am telling you, if you want to change your life and win lots of money, there's no better place to do that than Prize Picks itself. We were talking about the Boston Red Sox and the Gold Glove finalists in Jarren Duran and Wilyer Abreu, who of course both deserve to be the winners of those Gold Gloves in their respective positions. But there are other players who are in competition with them. And one of those players is certainly not Masataka Yoshida, who has struggled defensively in his time with the Boston Red Sox. And he has provided some value as a hitter, but his lack of ability to be consistent at the plate has certainly held him back from an offensive standpoint. And the Red Sox decided going into the 2024 season that they weren't going to have him really play defense because it was negatively impacting the team when he did. So he primarily DH'd, and he just went through a surgery that ended up being successful. So the Red Sox announced on Wednesday that he underwent a successful right shoulder labral repair on October 3rd. The procedure was performed by Dr. Evan O'Donnell at Massachusetts General Hospital. No further details were made available in the team's press release, but a source did tell MLB.com that the Red Sox are aiming for the left-handed hitter to be ready by opening day, which is set for the Red Sox for March 27th at Texas. In his second major league season with the Red Sox this year, Yoshida battled through not only discomfort in his right shoulder, but also a left thumb strain that kept him out of action from April 29th through June 10th. He played in 108 games and had 421 plate appearances, slashing a stat line of a 280 batting average, 349 on base percentage, and 415 slugging with 10 homers and 56 RBIs. After playing 87 games in left field in his rookie season, he played just one inning in the outfield in 2024. It is unclear if Yoshida's health had anything to do with him not playing the outfield this past season, or if that had more to do with the Red Sox just having a young and athletic outfield led by Duran and Abreu, their Gold Glove finalists. Ceddanne Rafaela obviously was also an elite defender in center field, but he ended up having to split some time between there and the infield. So staying at designated hitter, at least at the beginning, should allow Yoshida a better chance to reach his goal of being ready to go by opening day. So yes, he was battling through injuries, but I'm inclined to believe that the injuries weren't the reason that the Red Sox had him play DH in 2024. I feel like the reason is more because of all that young talent in the outfield. They have guys out there that they see being part of the future, and they wanted those guys to get more and more reps in that talented Red Sox outfield. So in order for them to do that, it didn't really make sense for them to have Yoshida go out there and play in the outfield when they were looking for a more consistent designated hitter anyway. So it makes sense to me why they had him DH the majority of the time in that regard, because these players that were out there in the outfield played fantastic defense. And the Red Sox can't really afford to throw a guy out there who isn't playing good defense, because for them, they need to then try to compensate and justify games that are lost because of him making those defensive blunders. Now, what I do like about Yoshida is that never give up mentality of grinding through, because if he really was hurting all season long, for him to go out there and be able to start hitting the way that he was, that's a challenge. And I had a similar conversation about Rafael Devers recently. He was clearly battling a shoulder issue all season long that was just bothering him, but he grinded through and continued to hit and continued to be a guy that the Red Sox needed to be able to rely on. And having Devers out there just made the Red Sox a better team and made their offense automatically a bigger threat as a whole. Because let's face it, if the Red Sox offense doesn't have him in there, then do they have really enough threats in the lineup? Probably not. So they definitely need Devers out there in order to be able to be successful. And you can argue with Yoshida that he ended up being a pretty key hitter for this Red Sox team, especially in the second half of the season when he was starting to pick things up and get more and more consistent. That 280 batting average, obviously you look at and say, wow, that's pretty good. But his second half of the season was drastically better than his first half. He was starting to figure some things out and was starting to click a little bit more at the plate and was able to provide a little bit more on offense than just not being able to hit anything but fastballs, but then just crushing fastballs. Because that was a lot of what Yoshida's mantra was prior to this season was he struggled a lot with the off-speed pitches, and fastballs were his strength. But the fact that he was able to expand a little bit on how he looked at the plate and what he was able to do offensively has been key for this Red Sox team. So you have to wonder now, what do things look like for the Red Sox? Because they obviously don't know for sure that he'll be ready for opening day. That's just them saying they're targeting opening day as the day that he comes back. So if that is the case and it ends up being opening day, then obviously everything's fine. They DH him and it is what it is. But say he's not ready by opening day, then the question becomes, what do the Red Sox do at that point? Because then if he's still recovering, then they have to find somebody else who can play DH a little bit more. And then you have to think about who's playing in the other positions and who it makes sense to shuffle around to the point where you're not decreasing the quality of the baseball being played. Because I felt like when the Red Sox had to do a lot of roster reshuffling in 2024 due to injury, it was tough for them to find the right combination of players to fill into these different roles because they weren't able to utilize guys in the best way and put them in the position to thrive because they didn't really have a choice and they kind of just had to throw them where they were needed. So that becomes the biggest question is, if they do have to do some shuffling around, what does that mean? Do they, have Story DH sometimes and then maybe Rafaela plays shortstop at that point? And then in terms of their outfield, because they have Duran and Abreu already out there, they figure something else out with another outfielder? Or do they have Devers DH and then they figure out who's going to play third base in the meantime? So there's lots of things to consider here when it comes to figuring out what they do and who they slot in. If Yoshida does end up missing the start of the season, they didn't really indicate either way whether they were confident in an opening day return. It was just explained that that's what their hope is that he will be ready by then, because if the surgery was successful, and even when the surgery is successful, that doesn't necessarily always mean that a player is able to come back at their target return date. There's a lot that goes into that, like making sure that they're feeling okay when they're going out there and taking reps and they're on their rehab assignments and they're swinging the bat and they're not feeling any discomfort or pain at all, because people can't bank on a player automatically being ready. And that's going to be the biggest thing here, is throughout the course of this offseason, when he resumes baseball activity and he tries to ease back into returning, what is that going to look like for him? Because setbacks are certainly possible. And what I'm going to be monitoring over the rest of this offseason is, how does he physically feel when he's out there and he's taking baseball swings and he's going through the motions and trying to feel out what it's going to feel like for him moving forward. That's going to be the big thing here, is, does he feel any sort of discomfort? Because the Red Sox definitely want to get to the bottom of these injuries. Same with Devers too, with his shoulder situation. Is he going to need surgery? They definitely want to be able to resolve that, because starting the season healthy would be ideal, and not having guys on the IL already to begin the season. But they seemed pretty positive about Yoshida, which I'm happy about. But the other question with this is going to be, how much of a contributor is he going to be? How much of a positive difference is this going to make? Because if he's going out there and he's hitting a lot better than he did in 2024, then we can sit here and say, wow, his injury played a big factor in his performance in 2024. But if he goes out there and he puts up similar numbers to what he did in 2024, then the argument would be, okay, this is just the hitter that he is, injury or not. And even though he went through all of this to make his shoulder get back to where it's supposed to be, and he went through this surgery and he hopes to bounce back in 2025, that will all feel like it wouldn't have mattered if he did that anyway. Obviously, from a physical pain standpoint, he wants to do it. But from a baseball standpoint, is that going to make him a better hitter in 2025? That's a big thing that I'm going to be looking out for, because a breakout Yoshida in 2025, look out for the rest of the league. And coming up, speaking of 2025, I'm going to be making some early predictions about next season that you definitely will not want to miss. Guys, sometimes intimate moments happen spontaneously, and we always want to be ready so we can perform in the bedroom. Hims provides access to treatments that can help you stay hard and last longer, giving you that boost of confidence so you can be ready whenever the mood strikes. Hims is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. Hims provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments like chewable hard mints and Viagra and Cialis and their generics for up to 95% cheaper. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That's HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/lockedon. The products mentioned are chewable compounded products which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. The great thing about it is no insurance is needed. So if you are a male, this is all you, 100%, not my area of expertise, as you can probably imagine. In talking about the Boston Red Sox and heading into the 2025 season, what are some predictions that you have? Let me know in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube. But for me, it's plain and simple. If they do what they need to do this offseason, they will be playoff contenders. If they go out and they are aggressive this offseason and then they make the moves that need to be made, they'll have a chance to win their division. They have a fantastic offense. They just need to add a couple right-handed power bats into the mix, and that offense will score runs. We've seen it. The Red Sox are capable of putting up lots of runs in games. I don't see that changing in 2025. I see that continuing the way that it is, and I see the Red Sox being a team that can be a threat to other teams. Again, this is all dependent on the offseason that they have. So assuming they go out and they make all the moves that they need to make to improve this team, including fixing the bullpen, fixing the rotation by adding a number one starting pitcher and adding a couple right-handed power bats to the lineup, this could be an 88 win team. I'm giving them 88 wins for 2025, and I'm putting them into a playoff spot. Whether 88 wins is enough to win the division, likely not, but I'm putting them in finishing second in the division in 2025 and getting one of the top wild card spots into the playoffs. And again, this is all assuming that they go out there and they have a big offseason like they claim they will. Obviously, we never know with these people because they have told us this in the past and they have made false promises to us in the past about what to expect. So I'm not really holding my breath on it. But if they do go out and they make all the moves that they need to make, I am predicting 88 wins and a wild card spot in the playoffs. Another big prediction I have for the 2025 season is that Brayan Bello will pitch more like an ace in 2025. And I'm not saying ace meaning he's going to be the number one starter. I think the bona fide number one guy that the Red Sox are hopefully going to go out and sign this offseason is going to be the ace of the rotation. But I think the numbers we see from Brayan Bello in 2025 put him in the conversation of being an ace and having that potential. I think we see more of the second half version of Brayan Bello, a guy who goes out there and shoves, because I think in the second half he was starting to figure out a lot of what was working for him. And I think we see him stick to that in 2025. And hopefully Andrew Bailey is encouraging him this offseason to do the same and to stick with what he knows and be that guy who can go out there and continue to throw the pitches that he feels most comfortable pitching, like sticking to his fastball, which is one of his best pitches. And he moved away from that a lot early on in the 2024 season. But if he can stick with that pitch, that's something that's going to be key for him as he navigates his way through into 2025. So I think we see a big season from him. I think we see another big season from Tanner Houck, a guy who was reliable all season long for this Red Sox team, and for sure is this team's best starter as it currently stands with where they are at. Again, they need to go out and get somebody, and assuming that they go out and get an ace, I see him being a solid number two, Houck, and then Bello being an above average number three. because a number 3 starter is typically your average guy in the rotation, but I see him being above average. And I think having those 3 starters as your lockdown guys who can go out there every 5 days and they're going to give you a good performance the majority of the time, that can get the Red Sox to the playoffs. Because if you notice the playoff teams, they have their lockdown guys, and that's how they are winning playoff games right now, is because they have their players who are going out there and are getting the job done whenever it calls for it. Whenever they go out there and they are needed, it's on them to go out there and take care of business, and they do. And they go out there and live up to what they're supposed to live up to. So if the Red Sox have those 3 starting pitchers, a mystery number 1, but it has to be a bona fide ace, then Tanner Houck, then Brayan Bello, those will be your 3 lockdown starting pitchers that can get the Red Sox some wins in the season and into the playoffs. So I see that being the combination for the starting rotation of having 3 solid starters there. And then I see a big season from Rafael Devers now that his shoulder thing will hopefully be healed. A guy who goes and has an MVP caliber season, a guy who goes off in 2025, because we've been waiting for that from him because he's been playing through some pain. I see a guy who has a big season in 2025 and is going to be the core of that offense and that glue like we need him to be. And yes, this might feel like it's optimistic right now, all these predictions. But again, I am saying this is all assuming that the Red Sox go out and make the right moves that they need to make. I truly do believe that they can be among the best teams in the American League because they have a bunch of pieces and they have a bunch of young talent that's really blossoming into what they're going to be for the future with this franchise. And there's just a lot of potential there. They just have to make a couple moves and they will be right back in that playoff conversation. So I'm looking forward to 2025, again, as long as the front office lives up to their end of the bargain and does what they said they're going to do. Thank you for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On MLB. Baseball guru Sully brings a daily blend of humor and baseball, keeping you updated on every aspect of the playoff picture. Find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. I love Sully. His show is great. He's so much fun and is super knowledgeable about all things going on in baseball. So if you want to learn more about what's going on with the playoff teams, check out his show right after this. As always, keep the faith. Go Red Sox, and I will catch you on the flip side.